On this edition for Sunday, September 5th, the cleanup from Hurricane Ida continues.
Frankly, citizens of Afghanistan are very similar to, us as Americans.
An Afghanistan war veteran on the end of the 20-year war. Jeff Greenfield on California's recall election. And the healing power of music. Next on PBS NewsHour Weekend.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wackenheim III, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the Anderson Family Fund, the estate of Worthington Mayo Smith, Leonard and Norma Chlorfine, the Rosalind P. Walter Foundation, Koo and Patricia Ewan, committed to bridging cultural differences in our communities, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. We try to live in the moment to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular has been offering no-contract wireless plans designed to help people do more of what they like. Our U.S.-based customer service team can help find a plan that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Additional support has been provided by and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. 1 week after Hurricane Ida made landfall on Louisiana's coast, power is still out. Thousands of people have damaged homes, and officials say the recovery work ahead will last for months. This morning, FEMA's administrator said the speed and strength of the hurricane gave officials little time to respond, and she warned more storms of this magnitude are likely as the climate warms.
I think this is going to be our new normal. We saw intense weather events in 2017. Last year was a record number of hurricanes and a record wildfire season. The UN had just put out their climate report, and they said that this is the climate crisis that we're facing, and it's only going to continue to get worse.
In New York, residents continued to clean up debris left after the remnant of Hurricane Ida flooded the region. In Queens, a memorial was set up for a mother and son, Tara and Nick Ramskriet, who died while trying to escape their basement apartment.
It hit us really hard, and the government need to do something about affordable housing so that people don't have to live in a basement. They can afford a first floor apartment. They're essential workers, they're immigrants, they work here, and they don't deserve this.
On Tuesday, President Joe Biden plans to visit Queens and the town of Manville in New Jersey. In Afghanistan today, domestic flights resumed for the first time since the Taliban took control of the country. The country's state-run airline is now operating flights between Kabul and 3 Afghan provinces. Taliban special forces are guarding Kabul's international airport, where some humanitarian aid is being flown in from Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. In Kabul, banks have reopened, but there are strict limits on withdrawals as local residents face steep increases in the cost of basic goods like oil, rice, and flour. The campaign to vaccinate all eligible Americans against COVID-19 is still moving forward, but slowly, as the Biden administration presses forward with a plan to offer booster shots later this month. To date, 62% of all vaccine-eligible Americans have received at least one shot, and 53% are now fully vaccinated. COVID-19 booster shots for those who have gotten the Pfizer vaccine will be available starting September 20th. The FDA has not yet approved Moderna or Johnson & Johnson booster shots. In Israel today, Prime Minister Naftali Bennett announced 2.5 million Israelis have now received a booster shot ahead of gatherings and celebrations for Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, which begins tomorrow night. Bennett warned that unvaccinated children should not be brought to synagogues this year. Capacity at these houses of worship will be limited to small groups of adults who can prove they are vaccinated. In Japan today, the closing ceremony for the 13-day-long Paralympics marked the final act for the Tokyo Games. A record 4,400 athletes competed in this year's Paralympic events. China won the most medals, followed by Great Britain and the United States. On Friday, the U.S. won gold in the first ever 4x100 universal relay at the Paralympics, setting a new world record of 45.52 seconds. At the closing ceremony, the Paralympic flag was handed off to the mayor of Paris, the host of the 2024 Summer Olympics. For more national and international news, visit pbs.org/newshour. Last week's U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Taliban's rapid takeover, and the death, chaos, and confusion that ensued caught many Americans by surprise. For some of the millions of U.S. service members who went to Afghanistan since 2001, the events of last week also come with mixed feelings about their service there and the allies left behind. I spoke with Roger Pinto, who deployed to both Afghanistan and Iraq as an infantry paratrooper in the Army's 82nd Airborne from 2008 to 2014. He is also a member advocate for the nonpartisan group IAVA, Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. So Roger, you were in the 82nd Airborne, served as infantry in Afghanistan. What were the kinds of things that you were doing on the ground with Afghan allies?
So there were a number of things we were doing on the ground with Afghan allies. One, we have interpreters with us every day. We go outside the wire, whether that be clearing IEDs or doing key leader engagements in different villages. And we also had Afghan allies working on our bases. Just like your brothers and sisters in arms, our Afghan allies are risking as much, if not more, than we are.
What do you think that the bargain was that we made with the people of Afghanistan when we were there? When you're in these conversations with these people that you are working with and fighting with, what did they think was going to happen at the end of this?
I think that the bargain we struck with them was a recognition of the values we both share. 99% of our Afghan allies and frankly, citizens of Afghanistan are very similar to, us as Americans. They have the same values of, taking care of their family, ensuring that they provide their kids with as much opportunities as they can afford, and putting in the hard work to do so. So we kind of presented that American dream to them. And it's very important that we ensure we follow through on the commitments we made.
If you can, I know one of the pictures that I saw. Tell me a little bit about the Afghan soldier that we're looking at there.
So that's a member of the Afghan Army. They were partnered with quite a few of our units in Afghanistan. And that particular picture is an infantry platoon with the 1st Special Troops Battalion, 82nd Airborne Division. And they're partnering with us as we provide security for a route clearance package, which is a group of combat engineers that are clearing IEDs off the road to ensure safety not only for U.S. troops, but safe travel for everyday Afghans that are going to work and taking their children to school.
They knew that putting on a uniform and standing shoulder to shoulder with American and allied forces would mean that they would have a target on their back.
They absolutely do. And it's not that they did it for 2 or 3 months. In many cases, they've done it for 5, 10, and 20 years. Not only that, but unlike U.S. troops who know that their family is secure, safe, and sound at home in the United States, theirs are often still in a village, and they can expect to knock on their door from the Taliban any day. So in order to serve the United States, in order to partner with us in Afghanistan, our Afghan allies made sacrifices every single day to ensure our safety.
Do you think that the past few weeks and the exit that the United States had from Afghanistan will have an effect on either the culture of the U.S. military or recruiting for the military?
I think it will have an impact certainly on the culture in the U.S. military. It hasn't been the first time in the past several years where we've seen these kind of commitments, falter. We saw it in regards to our allies in Kurdistan. We saw it in regards to some of our allies in the fight in Iraq, and now we're seeing it in Afghanistan on an entirely different scale. If I were a recruit joining the military today, and I were seeing these images on TV, and I was reading the reports that are coming out in the news, I would be really concerned that I would go into combat potentially and have allies that recognize that the U.S. has not followed through on its word. For me, it's been like watching our country turn its back on our neighbor. These are members of our community at this point. They've served alongside us for decades. And while culturally Afghanistan may be very, very different, there are many, many shared values that I just don't think have been translated to the average, U.S. citizen.
Veteran Roger Pinto, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Vice President Kamala Harris will head to California on Wednesday to campaign for Governor Gavin Newsom ahead of the September 14th recall election there. The recall attempt is both a simple and complicated political event. NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Jeff Greenfield joined us from Santa Barbara today to sort out the issues and the way the California system works. Jeff, how does California find itself in this position?
Well, under California law, you only need 12% of the statewide turnout to sign petitions to trigger a recall. And with paid petition gatherers and with a couple of $1 million in ad money that the Republicans threw into this process, the recall qualified. But it's the way this happens that's so bizarre, if I can use that term. It's a two-part ballot. First, should Governor Newsom be recalled? Yes or no? If 50% say yes, he's out. Then part two is triggered. Which of the 46 candidates on the ballot should be the next governor? And whoever finishes first wins. There's no runoff, which is why conservative talk show host Larry Elder, with about 20 or 22% of the vote, could be the next governor, even though Newsom got 49% of the vote in the first recall.
How did Gavin Newsom get into this bind in the first place?
First, the reemergence of the pandemic. The economy stalled, there's new restrictions, so that hurt. And then Newsom himself committed quite a blunder by, after imposing a lockdown, showing up maskless at a birthday party in one of the most expensive restaurants in the state. Now, in recent days, Newsom has rebounded. He has tried to turn this recall into a fight between Democrats, who dominate the state, and the odds of a pro-Trump right-wing talk show host becoming governor. And as I say, the polls are showing the recall will fail, but you've got a September election and a very odd process. So I think any strong, solid predictions are for the foolhardy.
Yeah, I feel old now, but I lived in California the last time this happened. This isn't the first.
No, in fact, in 2003, Governor Gray Davis was recalled and removed just 1 year after being reelected. You'll remember that the new governor was Arnold Schwarzenegger. He won, by the way, in a landslide. But the broader point is this is part of California's commitment to so-called direct democracy. In 1910, a progressive governor, Hiram Johnson, got major changes in how the state politics works. We now have an initiative process where voters can put their own laws or constitutional amendments on the ballot. We have a referendum where voters can undo what the state legislature has done. And we have a recall in which any statewide official can be subject to this process.
This was something that was supposed to help progressives, but it's been used by both sides.
Indeed, in 1964, the voters repealed every local fair housing ordinance. In 1978, they imposed a very strong lid on property taxes. In 1986, voters threw 3 Supreme Court justices off the bench for their lack of support for the death penalty. And in 2008, voters voted to ban gay marriage, although the courts knocked that out. And just last year, Lyft, Uber, and DoorDash spent $200 million to override a state law that said you have to treat your drivers as employees.
What's the consequence here if Gavin Newsom is recalled and if Larry Elder is elected?
For one thing, Elder is committed to repealing any kind of mandate in terms of vaccinations and masks. He has called global warming essentially mythological. But there's another very awkward point. Dianne Feinstein, the United States Senator from California, is 88 years old. And in recent years, her performance has concerned Democrats who have been urging her to resign. If Larry Elder becomes governor, and if Dianne Feinstein has to leave the Senate, he has said he will appoint a Republican in her place to serve the remainder of her term, which would make the U.S. Senate no longer controlled by Democrats. So there's potentially a lot at stake here.
Jeff Greenfield joining us from California. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
It's no secret that music can evoke emotion and influence someone's mood, but musicians and scientists are advancing studies on how it can help with healing. During the pandemic, one diverse set of musicians added their creative talents to the study of therapeutic music, teaming up as a drone ensemble to make music for healing. NewsHour Weekend special correspondent Mike Saray has the story.
What do you get when you cross opera star Renee Fleming with rock star Mickey Hart of the Grateful Dead and Indian classical music virtuoso Zakir Hussain, making music for healing in the middle of a pandemic? It's called drone music and embraces ancient healing and meditation traditions.
Music and medicine, it goes back as far as history goes back. You know, shamanism, people lived by that.
We are taught that when somebody got sick in the house, we were told to play our tanpura, which is the drone instrument.
And when you think about these types of therapies and interventions, they're non-pharmaceutical, they're very low cost, and they really are working.
The power of music to heal, or at the very least promote well-being, is well documented in most cultures, but it's only been in the last 2 decades that the scientific and medical communities have come together in an effort to prove its efficacy and the possibilities of including it in medical protocols.
Okay, here we go.
Memory.
Suddenly these things that were simply left to speculation and to theory, we now have measurements on. We have data. We have the ability to actually observe the human brain doing these remarkable music and artistic tasks.
Dr. Charles Lim is the co-director of the Sound Health Network at the University of California, San Francisco. It's a collaboration with scientists from National Institutes of Health and artists from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts.
Okay, we're gonna get started. Sound good?
Yeah.
One thing I've noticed in all of the musical experiments I've done is that when you listen to a musical stimulus and you look at the brain while that's being listened to, the entire brain is really engaged. So music is a robust stimulus for the brain.
Advances in MRI technology have allowed researchers to scan musicians' brains while playing music to observe how music affects different brain functions.
I think we're ready to get you set up in the scanner.
Great. It surprised the scientists as well, not just me, that the most powerful effect on my brain in this experiment, which had me singing, imagining singing, and speaking, was imagining singing.
Thank you for a wonderful presentation.
Renee Fleming spent much of the past year working with scientists and medical experts on how best to advance the music and healing connection with her series of podcasts called Music and Mind.
The discovery, for instance, that there's a music room in the brain, that it's distinct from speech, was really key, very important.
Daniel Levitin, the McGill and Stanford University's neuroscientist, music composer, and best-selling author of This Is Your Brain on Music, believes the most likely therapeutic uses of music will be for treating the less functioning cognitive parts of the brain caused by Alzheimer's and other brain diseases.
In Parkinson's disease, music is helpful because it sets a pace or a tempo, and often Parkinson's patients can't walk because they're frozen. And the music gives them a pulse that causes neurons in their brain, in the basal ganglia and cerebellum, the motor action centers, to synchronize with the tempo, and that helps them to start walking and to keep walking. You can't repair broken neural connections, but you can make new ones. Anytime you learn something new, those are new neural pathways. Practicing an instrument, learning an instrument develops these pathways.
My grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, and she was fading, and she hadn't spoken about 3 or 4 years. I started playing the drum, and she was smiling, you know, as best she could, and then she said my name. It was a startling discovery, and it kind of lit my light.
Grateful Dead drummer Mickey Hart has been working with UCSF neurologist Dr. Adam Gazzali to determine which rhythms might be more effective than others for treating damaged parts of the brain.
My brain, you know, rhythm's central. So seeing how it reacted to certain beats, loud, soft, fast, slow, was a revelation.
Perhaps one of Renee's most revealing music therapy experiences was with Army Captain Louis Avila, who lost his ability to speak after an IED explosion in Afghanistan. Intensive music therapy helped him regain his voice and eventually his speech.
And to see that that was such an extraordinary gift to him through melodic intonation therapy, which is the name of this particular therapy, to regain some speech, to regain his ability to communicate, that's an incredible gift.
The one thing that I've noticed about making music in the time of this pandemic, when you are isolated, that there's that much more deeper connection with what you're trying to achieve.
Zakir Hussain, Mickey Hart, and Renee Fleming's pandemic drone ensemble of sorts was one of the 10 pieces of drone music recorded remotely for meditation and healing practices. The music was recently released on Commune, an online well-being and healing network, accompanied by Mickey Hart's paintings with rhythm.
They call it vibrational expressionism, whereas it is vibrated into existence. I use a bass speaker, and I control it with the beam, with the monochord, and things rise that you had never suspected from underneath the many layers of paint.
I think if we think about the things that make us feel calm and relaxed, any kind of folk music very often has a drone involved. It's shown actually at MIT to clean up amyloid plaques and tangles in the brain.
This completely wraps its arms around you.
Mickey Hart has intuitively been discovering music's power to heal the past half-century, performing the Grateful Dead's version of music therapy in concert to tens of thousands at a time. The lifting of COVID restrictions is allowing him to tour again this summer with Dead & Company and take his music therapy back out on the road.
So, Dr. Hart, do you take Medicare payments at your performances here for all of us who
Yeah, well, you know, hey, in many states, doctors can write a script for music therapy. So it's not far off where music can be prescribed.
This is PBS NewsHour Weekend, Sunday.
Next Saturday, we'll commemorate the 20th anniversary of 9/11 with a special program covering the day's ceremonies and reflections from eyewitnesses and first responders. Here's an excerpt.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 crashed into the World Trade Center North Tower, Building 1. It was one of 4 planes hijacked by 19 al-Qaeda terrorists that day. At first, it seemed a tragic accident, an airplane off course.
As I'm watching this, trying to figure out, do I have to go to work? The second plane hit, and I saw it on TV. And that was it.
And all I seen was this huge fireball coming out of Tower 2, the South Tower. And for a second, I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe just the building blew up.
I ran downstairs, and I'm looking south, and both towers are on fire. And it was stunning.
With this second catastrophic strike, it became clear that the country was under attack. New York City mounted its largest rescue effort in history, dispatching more than 2,000 firefighters, medical workers, and police officers to Lower Manhattan.
It was a little hard getting through the streets because there was debris all over. So they had to come out of the building from the plane hitting it.
You gotta remember, the North Tower is fully engulfed. It's people are jumping out of the windows. I did not look. I was not gonna look. I'm very protective of my psyche. I only need to see what I need to see in situations like this. And but you couldn't close your ears.
Rescue workers rushed in to help the more than 16,000 people still inside, putting their own lives on the line.
That's all for this edition of PBS NewsHour Weekend. For the latest news updates, visit pbs.org/newshour. I'm Hari Srinivasan. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and have a good night.
PBS NewsHour Weekend is made possible by Sue and Edgar Wackenheim III, Bernard and Denise Schwartz, the Cheryl and Philip Milstein family, the Anderson Family Fund, the estate of Worthington Mayo Smith, Leonard and Norma Clorfine, the Rosalind P. Walter Foundation, Koo and Patricia Ewan, committed to bridging cultural differences in our communities, Barbara Hope Zuckerberg. We try to live in the moment, to not miss what's right in front of us. At Mutual of America, we believe taking care of tomorrow can help you make the most of today. Mutual of America Financial Group, retirement services and investments. Additional support has been provided by Consumer Cellular and by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people, and by contributions to your PBS station from viewers like you. Thank you.
You're watching PBS.